Hey everyone, this is Yosef Siegel. Welcome back to the back of the Beis. This week we have part 2 of our Amalek episode, which we began last week. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you had a great purim. Hope the Amalek episode helped enhance your purim. And even though we're the week after purim now, there's still a lot more that can be connected back to purim. And hopefully part 2 of our Amalek episode will do that for you. Before we get into the particulars, I just want to remind everybody that we are accepting sponsorships now. If you'd like to sponsor an episode in honor of someone or in memory of a loved one, please let us know. Send us a message to backofthebase@gmail.com. Whether it's a business sponsorship or a personal sponsorship, we will do what we can to help you out. So this week we're going to have Yehuda's take on Amalek. The role of Amalek in this world, why we have the physical obligation to destroy Amalek, as well as the obligation to get rid of the concept of Amalek in this world. And then we're going to end off with an interesting conversation as to why the bnei Rachel, the tribes of Yosef and Binyamin, have more of an obligation to destroy Amalek than the rest of bnei Israel. So let's settle in the back of the base with part 2 of our Amalek episode.
I think the Amalek. I agree with everything you said, but I think the idea of Amalek really is deeper in a sense than just trying to make everything mundane, trying to pull down everything into what you might call randomness, or happenstance, luck, right? Which is an idea brought down in Asher Karcha Baderech, right? Mm-hmm. The idea of carry, which also carries we call seed,
right?
Because there's just billions of them, and you know which one's going to fertilize the egg.
It's called seed. Randomness.
The randomness.
Okay, interesting.
Even though we know that it's not random, but it's highly, it's very much shrouded in at first glance what you would call randomness.
Scientifically, it's random.
Scientifically, as far as we know, yeah, it's totally random. Yeah, I think Amalek is more than that. I think that when you trace it back, Amalek can be found in the Nachash, right? We know this from multiple places in Chazal.
Okay.
That make the connection between the disembodied archetypal philosophy and ideology of Amalek was embodied in what the Nachash was trying to do. It was embodied in was it embodied in Cain?
I don't think so. I think the Nachash was gone by the time Cain came around.
Well, the Nachash was gone, but the Nachash wasn't gone. The Nachash had
he had lost.
Slipped in.
It was no
forever.
longer. It was no longer a Yetzer Hara. The Nachash itself was no longer. I mean, the Nachash had just become a regular animal. It wasn't. The Yetzer Hara itself had been placed inside human beings.
Yeah, the bite of the Nachash, the influence of the venom of what it is Amalek had slipped into every human being.
So explain that. So what did the Nachash do, and how is that embodied in Amalek, or the concept of Amalek?
So there's obviously I don't claim to know the full depth of what the Nachash was trying to do. Maybe you'll help me out with that a little bit, but what it seems like the Nachash was trying to do, to me anyway, was it's tough, man. So deep.
Well,
whatever happened in that garden is so.
Yeah, I mean, look,
so
one
deep.
conversation we're not going to be having that's going to be put on the internet is creation.
No,
because
we must talk about everything.
We're going to talk about it, but it's not going to be on the internet. Yeah, so we're not going to be talking about. That's way too much happening. It's just too much.
I think it's worthwhile to talk about.
Yeah, but it's not going to be put up.
Why not?
Because we can't. Some stuff should not be shared, and we're going to be speculating a lot and talking about a lot of things that we've learned on our own.
Yeah, but so as long as we make it known that we're just speculating, saying it's still bad.
We'll see. I don't know. That's like the one thing which you have to be really careful with.
Yeah, true.
But anyway, so okay, so based off of what we can understand in terms of what Amalek was trying to do, what was happening, what did Nachash do, or maybe you can define Amalek first and then explain how that is shown in the Nachash.
All right, maybe I'll just try and do it this way a little bit. Like throw out some terms that I've personally thought about that might help define what Amalek. I think that cynicism can be applied to Amalek. I think nihilism can be applied to Amalek. I mean, when I say applied, I mean that there's source material to suggest that
They are the
those
source
things.
of it.
No, the source that Amalek was highly engaged in these lifestyles.
Okay.
Cynicism, nihilism, materialism.
And what is the problem with these? What would be the issue with having that as part of your lifestyle?
Well, obviously, so cynicism. Let's say the issue there might be something along the lines of destroying meaning, or trying to nullify meaning,
Significance.
or significance. Nihilism, although it's pretty obvious what the problem is there. I mean, nihilism is it's a very deep rooted characteristic, and I think it stems somewhat in anger, which in anger, yeah. But I think anger might even be nested in shame.
Okay.
Which is really deep, because I'm pretty sure shame. That's funny because there's a person named Shame, but I think that the emotion or the state of being shame, I think, might be the most the first most primal emotion possible. Why do I say that? Because the entire reason why we have the chain of events of creation leading into an arena of reward and punishment is all because of shame, nama de kisufo.
Yeah.
Which means that shame had to have. You could say, well, why didn't Hashem just create Adam with no shame, and then give him all that he gave him, and then he wouldn't feel shame? Like,
right.
Nothing's out of Hashem's possibility. Shame shame has to be a created entity.
Yeah.
Because nothing is Hashem.
Right.
Right? Even a lot of times, even when people in Judaism refer to God, they're not referring to his essence. His essence is unreferable. You can't refer to it. It's not anywhere.
Yeah.
They're just referring to aspects of created things that of created natures.
Yeah.
He created kindness, and these are not him.
Right.
He is kind, but kindness isn't him.
Right. When we
created kindness and uses it.
When we discuss the midos, the Yud Gimel midos, the characteristics of God, right? These are not. It's not actual God. It's ideas which God created for us to relate to Him and how we should act.
Right.
We should act these ways, and God gives examples of how to act.
Right. I don't know if they're created necessarily on the same level as time and space, but it's just as time and space is popped out of nothingness as a creation, right, so too kindness and truth,
right, exactly,
or any other thing, it popped out of nothingness.
Right.
But that's always been a question. It's sort of like a schoolboy or schoolgirl question. Why didn't God just create Adam with no shame, and then he wouldn't have felt shame in taking the bread?
Right.
That presumes that shame must somehow be really, really deep.
It's an integral part of the human being. It needed to be there. Well, you can say that about any midah.
Okay, so let me just ask the question straightforward, and let's see where you go with it.
Okay.
Do we know why God just didn't create Adam with no shame and then give him everything, and then you wouldn't have had the problem of Nama de Kisufa, and therefore wouldn't have had the necessity of a Yetzer Hara, and you wouldn't have had the necessity of reward and punishment and trial.
Yeah, I mean, because then there's no purpose to creation.
Why? The purpose is that he gets to give the greatest amount of good.
Yeah, but it's not good, and again, this is something which has been adopted by the various cultures of the world, but it's originally a Jewish concept, is that if you don't work for something, there's nothing in it. You know, if you're just put and you're given everything and everything's amazing and unbelievable, there's nothing there. It's meaningless ultimately, right?
But you're saying that
reward is meaningful because it's
intrinsically meaningless? Because it didn't have to be meaningless. If God had created it, that's not meaningless.
I see where you're going with this, but I'm not really sure why we're talking about it.
Okay. Why we're talking about it is because shame, I think, I'm not sure if anger is nested in shame or if shame is nested in anger. I think that anger is probably nested in shame.
Okay, so...
But my point here is that the Nachash is in the garden.
Yeah.
And is somewhat more conscious. Is more conscious than the other beings in the garden.
Right. Because he was able
There are Chazal that say, by the way, the other beings in the garden could talk.
Okay.
Then once the Chet happened, everything got pushed down. All of his existence from literally top down just dropped a level down.
Mm-hmm.
So animals lost the ability to speak.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily unique that the Nachash could speak, but maybe we could say it was unique that the Nachash could process and then manipulate. Right.
Had the ability to think about it.
Right. And okay, maybe we could say what drove as far as we know, what drove the Nachash to start playing games with Chava, playing dangerous games with Chava, right? The most dangerous game you could possibly play, really.
Yeah.
Right. What was the motivation to start playing that game?
Mm-hmm.
That's an open question.
Oh, anyone here want to answer? Oh, okay. I mean, it seems like according to Chazal, there was a very strong physical desire for Chava, and he figured that if he can get Adam out of the way, then he could have Chava for herself.
True, I've heard that. Is it any other ideas?
That's Rashi. Off the top of my head, no. I would want to give some time and thought.
Okay. I've sort of gone down this path, and it could be a total nothing of a path.
Well, that's what this is for,
right? But I've entertained this idea in my head before that the Nachash was an integral part of the cosmic game, right? It had a role.
Yes, a very big role.
It had a pretty big role.
Yeah.
One could say bigger than the other created entities.
I could hear such an argument. Right?
I've even read Chazal that the actual purpose of the Nachash was to sort of be almost a super powerful tool in the hand of man. Almost so that man didn't really need to do very much outside of maybe spiritual activities. Nachash could go and bring food and shelter and gather things and whatnot. Like a handmaid, a helper, a butler of sorts.
Okay.
Hyper conscious, could do things that require chachma.
Mm.
Now, I think more than just necessarily being attracted to Chava physically and wanting to get that, because that's sort of like a weird idea. Like there was no lust in the garden, right? I don't think lust was there yet. Lust wasn't a thing.
I don't see why not. For the humans there wasn't, but it doesn't mean the concept didn't exist.
For the Nachash.
So the concept could have still existed.
The concept obviously
this is getting places I don't want to get to, but the Nachash was a weird creation because it wasn't human, but it was smarter than any animal. And like you said, it was conscious of more than even the humans were conscious of. Because the humans didn't understand what would happen with the tree, and neither did the Nachash necessarily understand what would happen with the tree, but it understood enough to realize that it could take advantage of the situation.
Yeah. So I basically, just to jump to the point of the idea that I've entertained before, is that the Nachash basically was pissed. Why was the Nachash pissed? Because the Nachash was conscious, and therefore conscious of the fact that sort of it wasn't playing quarterback.
Okay.
It was important, but not the most important.
He was the right guard.
Yeah. He was the full halfback. No, but like you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like the idea that
he wanted a bigger impact.
He wanted a bigger role.
So
a little bit more attention. And knowing that he wasn't going to get that attention, knowing that just isn't a role for him, there's no way for him to go up, let's say, or to become the central role. There's a lot of ego in that. There's a lot of ego in wanting to be the central role when you know that that's sort of doesn't fit the game. You shouldn't be in the central role.
Okay.
There's a lot of ego in a running back coming to coach one day and saying, I want to play quarterback.
Right.
I want the salary. I want the girls. I want whatever comes along with playing quarterback.
Right.
I want that. And the coach just quite seriously say, like, well, I mean, there's a game here and we're a team and
you're not a quarterback.
You're not a quarterback. Everyone, you know you're not a quarterback. We all know you're not a quarterback. You're a fantastic running back. And you not playing running back screws up the whole team. So there's a lot of ego in a running back saying, I want to play quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? So too, I think in a lot of ways, the Nachash said, I want that. I want to be Adam. Knowing that he couldn't be Adam,
right,
couldn't take on that role of playing quarterback, he said, screw it. I want to tear down the whole system.
Okay.
I just want to tear it all down. And that's where the nihilism comes in. If I can't be it, I want to rip it all to parts. And therefore he started playing games.
So why does that lead
manipulating to ruin the system? Think about it. There could have been lots of ways that he could have tried to sleep, for lack of a better word, with Chava. What did it have to do with the tree? Why go to the tree to sleep with Chava? You could have done it. I mean, time is a weird thing in Gan Eden. We don't know exactly how time was working then. Presumably, there was a good amount of time, and he could have picked his spot. I don't know, waited until she was pissed that he didn't take out the garbage or something. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean to make it too mundane, but like, why did the Nachash's desire for Chava have to revolve around eating from the Eitz Hadas?
So you're saying that the Nachash knew what eating from the Eitz Hadas would do?
Yeah, he knew that it would.
Because no one else says. I mean, I don't think anyone else says that. I think he knew that like something big. It would be like pressing the big red button. You don't know what's going to happen, but
you don't think the Nachash knew of the commandment Mos Yumas?
Well, first of all, that wasn't the commandment, because that was one of the things he tricked Chava with. The Chava said that, if we eat it, we're going to die. I'm sorry, if we touch it, if we eat it, we're going to die. And the Nachash said, oh, no, what are you worried about? And that's when he pushed her. She touched it, because she said, if we touch it, we're going to die. So the Nachash made her touch it, and then she didn't die, so that gave her...
Maybe the Nachash knew that, or maybe the Nachash knew, first of all, that touching it was not the actual commandment, which it wasn't.
So
Adam Tzad botched there and told Chava not to touch it, which was a geder, and not actually the thing. But also maybe he thought that it only applied to Adam, not to Chava.
So are you suggesting that he just wanted to kill Adam? Because what actually happened was a kind of destruction of the world. Obviously not a real destruction of the world, but the entire fabric of the universe was changed after they ate from the Eitz Hadas. What you're suggesting is that the Nachash was just like, I'm going to kill your man, meaning he's saying to God, I'm going to get rid of your, oh so mighty man, and then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So like,
that's
a
sort
huge
of the
difference.
idea that I'm playing with.
So how does that? So I understand how that manifests itself in the what shall we call it, the characteristic of Amalek, that there's just, well, why don't you talk about that? Because I'm going to ask you how that fits in also to the obligation to get rid physically of Amalek. So why don't you first start? Why don't we go backwards? Explain how that gets into the characteristic of Amalek, that you have to get rid of those things even if there's no physical manifestation, and then get into why we need to get rid of the physical nation of Amalek.
Okay, so whatever it is that let's just go with that, right? I mean, do you see where I'm coming from at all? Like
this is similar to what you were saying before. We were discussing a while ago. If Amalek was going against God, if it was going against the people.
Yeah.
Now I see how that idea connects. For those of you who don't remember, I'll put in the show notes exactly where we discussed that, because we've been talking for a while already. So based off of that idea, I understand what you're saying now with the Nachash. I just want you to completely illustrate not how we see it tangibly, because I do understand how you can see that tangibly, but just put that back into why there's such an obligation to get rid of the midos of Amalek, which we said exists nowadays when we don't know the humans who belong to Amalek, and then also explain, this is the part that I personally don't understand, is why that gives us an obligation to get rid of the people of Amalek, the men, women, and children. Why do we have to kill them because of this idea? So let's go first midos and then humans.
How to destroy the midos?
No. Just practically.
Oh,
just
the
go
midos
back.
of
So
Amalek.
now we have an obligation
Okay.
to get rid of the midos of Amalek because
So the Nachash really embodied some hyper primal evil characteristics.
evil characteristic.
Right, the evil characteristics of egotism, jealousy, and I would say nihilism. Right?
Okay.
Those things are there before Amalek. The question is, who's going to pick up that banner, so to speak? Who's going to pick up that banner through history and run with it? Right? So, for whatever reason, and I think there's room to make the connection, obviously, for the characteristics of the Nachash, Amalek picks up that banner. I don't think he was the only one that plays with those evils.
Okay.
But
he becomes the poster child.
He becomes the poster child almost happily.
Right.
Right? To pick up the banner of these things and run with it.
Meaning everyone has bad midos, but they don't all represent them.
Right.
And for Amalek, though, these midos represented him.
Right. Also, just a side point, interesting to note who Amalek's mother was. I didn't say that for no reason as a fun fact.
Oh, okay.
His mom was somebody named Timnah.
Yeah.
Timnah, I've read, was not somebody simple. Timnah was royalty.
Yeah.
Coming from coming from...
but she so badly wanted to be part of the Avram Avinu
Exactly.
family.
She wanted to be a part of Avram. Avram said no. So she went to Yitzchak and said, give me somebody. Give me your son. I want to be part of your family.
Right. And she was even willing to be a concubine.
Right. And this was like an open, honest, like a deep place of vulnerability, if you think about it. Timnah's royalty, leaving her father's house, which was not an easy thing to do back in the day.
Right.
And go to the place where they're doing things against the grain and say, I want in. At all costs, I want in.
Right.
I'll never go back home. I want into your family. Avram says no. Yitzchak says no. And finally she's like, okay, I'll go to Esav. Right. At least he's in the family.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I think that those...
Interesting.
That those... The shame and anger that's involved in being that vulnerable and getting rejected, that hooks you right into nihilism. And that's the seed of... That's where Amalek sprouts out of. I think consequentially, not inconsequentially, sleeps with his own mom and has children through her, which is another, like, just distortion.
Right. Of creation.
and then boom, he's the bannerman.
Yeah.
He's the bannerman for those evils.
Mm-hmm. So how come there was no obligation to get rid of these midos without Amalek?
I think there was. Obviously, there wasn't in a formal sense.
Right.
But
So
I think there was in the sense that my idea of what's going to happen, and I could be totally wrong, but my idea of what's going to happen when we need to destroy Amalek is that there are going to be people in the future who are so hooked into these, and it might play out in ways which we might not be able to tell right away. But they're going to be so hooked into these ideas when at the time the Mashiach arrives, and then basically Mashiach's going to say, okay, these people are they, right? These are the ones who are sort of sucking energy and bringing these properties back into the world, or drawing them down and allowing them to have a place to foment and wreak havoc, so to speak. And it just so happens to be also that they are actually from the Zera of Amalek, because that's where these ideas are nested.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the destroying of Amalek at its root, which is really what I think that the actual commandment is, Timche Zecher Amalek, right? That's really the important part. The inconsequential part is just making sure that at the final level it can't make its way back into the literal physical world that we live in. But I think that the only time when Eliyahu Hanavi is going to be able to come and point out who they are is when we've done the inner work of pulling out Amalek up to the surface. Pulling out Amalek meaning the Nachash. Pulling out what those evils are inside of ourselves and in our society around us, right? Pushing it up to the surface so that we can point to it, and then as soon as we're ready to eradicate it inside of ourselves, then Eliyahu Hanavi is going to come and say, okay, you're ready to destroy it at its source, so let's just finish the game and wipe it out so that it can never work its way back in physically.
So when Hashem goes to Shmuel and says, go tell Shaul that the time has come, go kill every single member of Amalek, what's that about?
That's basic. That to me, that's saying like it's been capped. It's ready to be capped at its source. These energies, these properties are ready to be capped at its source. When I say at its source, I mean metaphysically, right? Okay. And so therefore the time has come to sort of like to cap it physically.
So you think that time in history was the time that Mashiach could have come?
Yeah.
I mean, Mashiach could have. I mean, Chazal don't say that.
That Mashiach could have come then.
I mean, Mashiach can come anytime.
Not true. David Amalek is Mashiach, and he was right there. He was literally right there. In Shaul's.
Look at you. So what you're saying is that the physical destruction of Amalek coincides with an opportunity to get rid of the Midos side of Amalek, and that's completion of the universe.
Yeah, that allows us to sort of
deep.
Move up the entirety of creation, to move it back up into its place, where we can embody Adam Arishon. Now the thing is that not all the Goyim are Amalek.
Okay, that's fine.
The vast majority of them are not.
It's not a fight against Goyim.
No, 100%. And I think, but there's purpose in the understanding of what Amalek is. There's something to be gained in the sense that the idea being kind of like, do your job, right? Do your job the best you can to forward the achievements of the whole, and you're gonna feel the bliss of the whole. Meaning, Esav's not destroyed at the end. Amalek is a small piece of Esav.
Okay.
Right? And we also we know really that if Esav had done his job properly, he could have embodied the idea of what it means to be Mashiach ben Yosef.
Yeah. Meaning he had a role.
He had a very holy role.
And he didn't like it.
He didn't like it.
Which still fits in with your
exactly.
theme.
He wanted to be Yaakov.
Yeah.
Because Yaakov almost like, it looks closer. It looks pure. It looks sexier.
It's more. It looks better. It's more glamorous.
It's more glamorous.
It's harder, but it's more glamorous.
Right, but that breeds jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is, though, that if you pick up your stick, you pick up your job and do your job with a smile, right? Knowing that you are a hugely integral part of making the clock tick properly, then you fit into the system seamlessly,
right? And
then you enjoy the system. You enjoy the bliss of the oneness.
Mm-hmm.
You're in, which is what's going to happen. Only Amalek needs to be destroyed. Only the anger, jealousy, nihilism,
right,
cynicism,
right.
Only that needs to be wiped out forever from top down.
Right. And that's what we say in Pirkei Avos also. Kinatayv kavod mitzinas adam olam. Right? Jealousy, desire, and desire for honor, right? Take you out, or the getting honor takes you out of this world.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how does that, in very short, because I don't know how much we're going to talk about this now, how does that connect specifically to Purim?
Well, so obviously Haman.
Right, but I'm saying, but Purim is so significant. You're just saying, oh, it's all the same. I mean, we don't. Purim is not a victory, meaning like Shaul was as much a victory over Amalek as Purim was over Amalek. Specifically over Amalek, meaning we weren't saved from death by Shaul, but Purim is celebrated as a victory over Amalek, and in terms of defeating Amalek, it was just as much as with Shaul. So how specifically do you see this battle by? I'm saying, like, you're just saying, it's like, so why are we so this is not the reason why Purim is so special. Is that what you would say? Purim is special because of other reasons.
No, I would say it's right there too.
Okay. And why? So why is it?
I would say that it has to be right there because that's what it has.
So why are we celebrating? What are we celebrating? We didn't complete our mission.
We did not complete the mission, no.
So,
what
are we celebrating?
That's interesting. I think essentially what we're celebrating in Purim is we're celebrating the fact that we, first of all, we were saved at the very, very last minute. We didn't do a good job, which I'm pretty sure is indicative of what's going to come in the future. Pesach, we got out the very last second. Chazal tell us. We were on the 49th level.
Right.
Purim, the whole reason that Achashverosh was throwing parties was because he miscalculated, and he went at the end of the 69th year.
Right.
But it was really we had through the 70th year.
Yeah.
And only towards the end,
meaning the 70 years that were prophesized to be the time span between the two, right? Between the two Batei Mikdash.
Right. So, I mean, this came at like This was the last 365 days of possibility that this started to unfold.
Okay.
I think what we're really celebrating the fact is that we got it. We saw what was happening. In a world, in an environment where things were happening in a delayed pace, where there were moving parts, unconnected moving parts in the daily fashion, right? Couldn't see A to B.
Right.
There was time lapses between significant events. Significant events were shrouded in seeming normalcy.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the significance of Purim is that we were able to, in a sense, bring Amalek up to the top and spot it for what it was, and then know that we need we need Hashem.
And I guess it's also two different aspects based off what you're saying, because the Shaul aspect is the physical eradication, that it's so easy to see this is Amalek, get rid of them. And Shaul wasn't able to do it.
Right.
And then you come to Purim, and it's
Not that
only...
he wasn't able to do it. He could have done it.
No, he didn't do it. Whatever it is, he didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then you get to Purim, and we recognize very few members of Amalek. There's 11 members of Amalek, Haman and his 10 sons.
Right, and we know conceptually that they are Amalek, because we know that he's Haman.
No, but it's a very small, meaning then we had, in times of Shaul, you have the entire nation.
Right.
And you know physically you need to get rid of it. And then you come to Purim, and there's only 11 people. It's not a nation. I don't know how many there were, but we only see 11 people.
There were plenty.
I'm sure there were more. Right. There's no record of...
They're not holding a banner. They're not wearing a pin.
Right, besides for Haman. Haman was the one who called himself Agagi. Right? Or we recognized him as Agagi. Right? So that's the idea of trying to recognize the Midos aspects of Amalek in the world and having to get rid of it. I don't know if any of what you just said is true, but it was awesome. No, I'm serious. Like, I don't know if any of that is like. Well, I love how it fits and I love how it works. I really.
The practical idea for me personally, when I think about it being, is to pay attention closely, right?
Yeah.
And to do your best to connect everything to its source. Yeah. And never leave the Daled Amos of Halacha.
And that's why, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's why we can celebrate Purim and not Shaul, according to you. Because Shaul had a very clear thing, and he didn't accomplish it. So you can't celebrate it.
It's interesting.
But there was a goal by Purim, which even if you don't get rid of Amalek, but you can still celebrate the fact that you were able to recognize and get on the right track to accomplishing your goal.
Right, I mean, I like that a lot. It's sort of like a known point about what we're actually celebrating with Purim is, which I'm sure is connected. I don't know if I have the dots right now, but was the acceptance of Torah Sheba'al Peh.
Right.
Not that we hadn't accepted it before.
There's a re-acceptance. That's how Chazal put it.
Right. There's sort of like, I read recently...
Kimu Mashe Kiblu Kvar.
Right, and the Gemara says...
The Megillah writes Kimu v'Kiblu Yehudim, and the Gemara says Kimu Mashe Kiblu Kvar. They established what they had already accepted.
Or Kimu Lemata Mashe Kiblu Lemala. Also the Gemara says that. Or Rashi says over there in Megillah. Right, but that
what you're saying about leaving the Daled Amos of Halacha? Is that what you're going on?
Yeah. That's a really big deal because like we've talked about in our previous, Torah Sheba'al Peh is the vehicle of Klal Yisrael. That's our ride. Mm-hmm. Torah Sheba'al is like sort of up in the clouds as far as we're concerned, and it's huge. It's everything. But the vehicle we use to interact with the world around us and with the metaphysical world and to engage in these things is Torah Sheba'al Peh. Yeah. Right, and it wasn't happenstance that like our reinvigorated yearning to be plugged into Torah Sheba'al Peh happened at the same time that that we were involved in trying to pick out seemingly unrelated events, and connect them to the proper source, and then somehow when we got that and Hashem saved us. In a non-miraculous yet completely and totally miraculous fashion. Yeah, Klal Yisrael was like, all right, I want Torah Sheba'al Peh. I want to be locked in. Yeah, to this connection.
Very good.
So that I can be one.
Awesome. We're not gonna have time to get into Purim, but there is one thing that we can still talk about, which I want to see if you have thoughts on.
Are we not in Purim?
Well, we're talking about Amalek.
I'm with my mask, bro.
No, but like we can make the next step to Purim, but we have like another hour to talk about Purim, and we don't have another hour to talk.
Dressing up as a Jedi.
Isn't that what you always dress up as?
Yeah. For people who don't know me, I walk around all the time wearing a Jedi.
You're looking at the guy with the robe. Just say hi. Say hi, Jude. What's going on?
Jedi's are legit, man.
100%. Okay, so then let's talk about this because this is still on the Amalek thing, and we have a couple more minutes left before we have to go. Chazal tell us that the obligation to destroy, or the ability to destroy Amalek, lies with the children of Rachel, Yosef and Binyamin. And that's why Yehoshua is the one, he's from Yosef, and that's why he's the one who leads the true story. He's
referred to podcast number.
He's the one who leads the battle in Parshas B'Shalach, and Shaul and Mordechai and Esther all came from Binyamin, and they're the ones who lead the battles in Sefer Shmuel and in Megillas Esther. So, according to your explanation, do you have an understanding of why they're the ones who have to, specifically, they're the ones who have to eradicate Amalek?
Why it needs to come from Yosef?
Yeah.
Or from Rachel?
Right.
I mean, Rachel's a step deeper than Yosef. Yosef's really
Yosef and Binyamin. Yosef is one, but it's also very much Binyamin because the story of Purim is Binyamin and Shaul HaMelech.
So it's really more Rachel than Yosef.
It's Rachel. It's definitely Rachel. I mean, one medrash says bnei Yosef and one medrash says bnei Rachel, and it's obviously two different aspects, I'm sure. But
I don't know. I've never thought of it. It's a very interesting thing to try and dig into. I mean, I think there is a documented connection between. It's just coming at the top of my head between Rachel and Torah Sheba'al Peh. The Zohar talks about the world of Rachel being connected to Torah Sheba'al Peh.
Okay.
It's the revealed. Rachel has a connection to the revealed world.
Okay.
We have Chazal for that, in the sense that I guess one way I could put this is like Rachel's the obvious choice. It's revealed. It's apparent that it's the obvious choice. That's what Yaakov showed up and said, Rachel, that's for me. He also ended up marrying Leah.
Yeah.
Which was not originally his idea of that's for me, even though in a deeper way it was for him. But yeah, that Rachel has deep significance when it comes to Torah Sheba'al Peh. We also know that it happens to be that Yosef, in a lot of ways, was the embodiment of Torah Sheba'al Peh.
Okay.
Because he is like Hat Tzaddik. He was always making calculated decisions, and he was always making the right decision.
Okay.
Which is like Torah Sheba'al Peh. He was highly engaged in the world. He was a king of an actual nation.
Right.
He was engaged in day-to-day life, and he was always making correct decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are ideas, I think, in the Ramchal's writings about how Mashiach ben Yosef's neshama, and therefore the DNA, so to speak, of Mashiach ben Yosef lies more in Torah Sheba'al Peh.
Mm-hmm. So the idea I always had, in terms of how
that's why they say, I've heard said why that's why Rachel's kever was specifically left open.
Okay.
It's in an enclosure now, as
now
you know, if you've been there. But
that's a more recent thing.
Right, another fun fact that was done by Moses Montefiore. I think
that makes sense.
It was done by Moses Montefiore in the late 1800s, and I've heard it said that Mukubalim, who were living in Israel at the time, had correspondence with Moses Montefiore telling him not the best idea to cover. We understand why you're doing it. You're doing it for good reasons, like nothing against you.
Right.
But Kabbalistically, you might not know that there are reasons why it's uncovered, and it should remain uncovered. Obviously, it didn't remain uncovered, and Hashem has reasons for that, I'm sure.
Right.
Why it didn't
and
turn
look,
out that.
Nowadays, Al Pi Teva, nowadays it's a good deal. It's a good thing that it's covered.
Yeah, otherwise it'd probably be
even bigger problems.
Ruined.
Yeah. Like
but to dig much deeper into that question, it's a very deep question.
So the idea I've
has
always
to
had
come
is,
out of
so it's like this, and I think it actually also explains why the two names that are mentioned in the Medrash are Rachel and Yosef. I don't think Binyamin's name is mentioned in any Medrash. It's very obvious that Binyamin had a big part in it, because again, Mordechai, Esther, Shaul, they're all from Binyamin.
Right.
And Mordechai and Esther are even from Shaul as well.
Oh, wait, what am I saying? Okay, you continue.
Okay.
I mean, there's an obvious reason why it needs to come from Binyamin. Not an obvious, shouldn't say obvious. There's a reason that's documented why it has to come from Binyamin.
Oh, okay. So I think you're saying because he didn't bow to Esav.
And he wasn't involved in the sale.
Right. So that's I think that's why it's why it can come from Binyamin. Binyamin does not have the limitations that other Shvatim have because he never subjugated himself to Esav.
Okay.
We're talking about when Yaakov bowed down to Esav with all his family, so Binyamin had not yet been born, so he didn't bow down. So he never subjugated himself to Esav, and therefore he had a certain koach over Esav that no one else had. But two things: one thing about Rachel and one thing about Yosef, which are kind of connected, which will hopefully explain why that specific connection exists, that they can destroy Amalek. Famous medrash by Yosef is actually a pasuk. Vaya Beis Yosef. It would be Beis Esav Lakash, Beis Yaakov La'esh, Beis Yosef Lahava.
Right.
Esav is the straw, Yaakov is the fire, but Yosef is the flame. Right. That without a flame you can't start a fire, and in order to destroy Esav, the idea of Esav, which we'll talk about at some point, but is very much embodied in Amalek, Yosef is the one that directly counteracts Esav. And that's why Yaakov, once Yosef was born, Yaakov felt confident, Chazal tell us, to go back to Eretz Yisrael and fight against Esav. Another interesting fun fact is, so we know that Yaakov was punished for putting Dinah in the box. This is what you were going to say?
Yeah.
Jude was giving me motions.
Dinah is Yosef.
But Dinah, so the question is, why was Yaakov punished for putting Dinah in the box? So Chazal tell us because maybe he would have Esav would have married Dinah, and she could have made him do tshuva. So he's sitting there going like, what? Dinah was going to make Esav do tshuva? And the answer is yes. Dinah was going to make Esav do tshuva. So here you have Yosef, who was the flame to destroy Esav. And you have Dinah, right, who was the only person in the world who could make Esav turn good.
What's the significance of Dinah and Yosef?
And the Medrash says that everyone thought that Dinah and Yosef were basherts. Everyone thought that Dinah was supposed to marry Yosef, and what ends up happening is that Yosef marries her daughter.
Right.
But it makes total sense. Bos Potiphar, Chazal tell us, was from Dinah, from Dinah's relationship with Shechem.
Which there's also a lot of sketchiness with Yosef and Shechem. Yosef's buried in Shechem.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. But think about that for a second.
But we know just one point that ties it in even tighter is that Yosef. Chazal tells us that Yosef was the neshama of Yosef was actually in Leah's womb developing as a child.
Oh, and that's the one.
And Leah was like, I know this is a boy. I want Rachel to have a boy, so I'll daven and turn it into Leah. But the roots to Dinah. But the roots they were almost like the same.
Very interesting. But it makes total sense.
But Chazal go one step further and say, why is it that Dinah was out investigating culture?
Yeah.
Why was she available? Why wasn't she in the tent or something, right, or in
what
the
was
general?
She hanging out for?
Because Chazal say she had a certain boyish streakiness. Because originally she was.
So everyone thought they were supposed to be together.
Yeah,
but if you look at their missions in life, they're complete opposite missions. So that's the fun fact. So Yosef is the counter to Esav. What's so special about Yosef as a counter to Esav? So Chazal tell us, right? The pasuk says that Ben Parat Yosef Ben Parat Ali Ayin, right? Everyone says Ole Ayin. Yosef had no Ayin Hara. Why did Ayin Hara have no effect on him? Because he faced his greatest nisayon, the greatest challenge, the one that was tailored for him. That this was Yosef's biggest Yetzer Hara, and this was the one that ultimately tested him, and he passed it. And that was with him and Potiphar's wife, that he had it all laid out for him. This is the perfect opportunity. No one would have ever found out. He could have had anything he desired, and he totally turned it down completely and ran out of the room. Just got out of there as fast as he could. And that's the opposite of Esav. That's the opposite. That's why he's called Yosef HaTzadik, and that's why he's Ole Ayin. That is something special. That is the full potential of a human being. And according to what I explained, that the whole point of Amalek is to come and take away anything miyuchad about a human being, to take away anything extra about them, that everything should just be normal and mundane. Yosef says no.
Or lucky and random and predetermined.
Yosef says no. Like, no, you could have everything, and everything's sitting there. Yosef's sitting there, like, he could have done it all. and no one would have found out, and Potiphar's wife definitely wouldn't have told. Like everything would have been the perfect situation for him. But that's the idea of Yosef. That Yosef shows Amalek, he shows Esav, no, this is not how life works. And Rachel is the same thing. Rachel had the signs. She knew her father wanted to trick. She could have gone to Yaakov and said, Yaakov, this is what's going to happen. Let's sneak out the back door. Let's go elope in Vegas. Like she could have, but and
that's a little bit
like I didn't think it could have happened, right? But she said, no, this is not how it works. Like my sister has an opportunity here, like this thing, and I'm going to give up my opportunity. And she thought she was going to go to Esav. She thought she was giving up Yaakov entirely, and she was going to have to go marry Esav. And she was willing to give that up and just say, this is what needs to happen. And if that's the full potential that a human being can reach, and that's how much they can conquer their selves, right, and their desires, and like what you were saying, all that jealousy and all that anger, it could be totally conquered and gone, eradicated. Who else can get rid of Amalek? Who else is better to get rid of Amalek than the children of Rachel?
True. I like it.
That's good.
There's one more thing.
Okay.
That's been formulating in my head. Is that on what I was saying before about Yosef having connections to Torah Shabbal Peh?
Yeah.
Also, another thing, Rabbi Akiva, right?
Yeah.
Was Rabbi Akiva, who you can point to sort of as like the father of Torah Shabbal Peh.
Right.
The how would you say that? The rejuvenation. The father really.
Yeah, his 5 Talmud are pretty much all Torah Shabbal Peh is paskin through them pretty much.
Right. The Ramchal actually says had the neshama of Mashiach ben Yosef in him, and it's a bit of a trip how he got it because he was a ger. He wasn't a ger. He was the son of a ger. Right. But basically, that's a whole trip in Kisvei Ari of how neshamas end up back where they need to be and go through different things. Not that I understand what I'm saying. But I think that that in a sense, Yosef and Esav are two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. And like we've already said, like Esav sort of could have embodied what Yosef is. Esav could have been the Yosef to Yaakov's being Yehuda.
Okay.
That's a lot of...
Yeah, that's a lot of trip. Basically, just the idea of that Yosef had a physical control in the world. Like he was a king and stuff like that. He had a entrance into the physical world, and that could have been Esav. And Yaakov was supposed to be just the spiritual guy,
right?
Who ruled the people,
right? And therefore, why is it that Yosef and Rachel, and then Binyamin is where it throws me for a loop. Okay. But maybe because it's more nested in Rachel than it is nested in Yosef.
Okay.
But nonetheless, though, like, how is it sort of what the job? We know that sort of the job of Mashiach ben Yosef is to fight the physical war.
Yeah.
Right. We have an idea for this, and the idea of we know that the goal or the job of Esav really is to build the physical world, right? To use his hands and to build it, and connecting it all the meanwhile to Yaakov and to the right source and putting everything in its right place. Mm-hmm. All the physical stuff, putting them in the right place, right? And one could say that what does Torah Shabbal Peh allow us to do? It allows us to manipulate the physical world and put it in the right place. For instance, electricity comes into the world, right? Not that Jews invented it or anything, but electricity pops into the world. Torah Shabbal Peh allows us to physically put that in its right place. Is it mutter? Is it usher? Is it tameh? Is it tar?
Right.
It's extremely involved in the physical universe, Torah Shabbal Peh. So Yosef and Esav are two sides of the same coin. Esav took it in the improper direction, and he was involved in physicality and got too involved in it and tried to cut his spiritual source off because he didn't want to have to deal with the consequences. Yosef's the opposite side of the coin. Yosef was also very physically, he was the most handsome human male, as far as we're concerned, that ever lived, right? And we know that he Chazal tells us he, for some reason, looked in mirrors and he brushed his hair. He kept up his physical appearance. He was involved in the physical world. He was engaged in it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But he did the right thing. He connected it to its source constantly, literally constantly, never erred, in making sure to put everything in its right place. Mutter, Asr, Tamei, Tar. He never made mistakes.
Right.
So why is it that Yosef can defeat Esav? Because Yosef is Esav. He gets Esav. Mm-hmm. But he does it he does it the way of Tar.
Very good.
Whereas, so he's the flame that can distinguish Esav because he really is the only one that understands it.
He understands it. That's interesting. All right, that's a lot more for another topic. We could have really gone for another 2-3 hours on this one.
It's everything. It's so
really,
deep.
Yeah. Oh
Purim is where we live now.
We didn't even talk about Purim.
We
talked about Amalek. Very little. No, but I'm saying, but that's great. I mean, it means that the Purim episode won't be out in time for Purim, but Amalek will be.
Yeah.
But we got to sign off.
Pay attention, boys and girls.
To what?
Everything.
To the world. Yeah, everything.
Look through your eyes. Don't see.
No, see.
No, look through your eyes and then see.
Oh.
Very interesting thing, by the way. Last thing, fun fact: the brain isn't
3 fun facts in one episode.
Yeah, we're going at
overload.
And they're not even paying $9.99.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably going to be cut into 2 parts, so it's not in one episode. So fine, okay, fine, it's good.
But yeah, there are 2 parts of the brain. There's the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, right?
Was this about that video you sent me?
Yeah, did you watch it?
Yeah, I sent you a message about it. You can't explain that now. It's going to take 25 minutes.
I'm just going to take... It was interesting now.
You didn't see what I wrote back?
No.
All I wrote back was, whoa. There's so much information. No, I'm saying I got it, but eventually there is no such thing as left and right.
So right, there is no such thing as left and right, but only because there's a thing in the middle. There's a tissue in the middle called corpus coralis, I think it was called.
I don't know.
Basically, it allows for signals to go between the two.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it has anything to do with Chochmah, Bina, and Das, but I'm pretty sure it's got something to do with Chochmah, Bina, and Das.
So you should have said that.
No, but it's just super interesting because they've discovered, they think, what is the point of that middle tissue that connects the firings between the two? It's an inhibitor. It's a delay mechanism.
It allows one to influence the other. Isn't that what they said?
Well, practically speaking, it allows a human to delay reaction.
Yeah.
Which is essentially, if you really think about it, is free choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why don't animals have free choice? Because there's no delay.
Right.
They just do.
Right.
If it's food, I get it. If it's gonna eat me, I run. There's no delay. Whereas if a human didn't have that gap in time, the delay mechanism,
right. So
we would also be that. We would just run, go, do this, move around, take a nap in the sun. That would probably be my go-to.
You'd be a koala in real life.
I'd be a sloth.
A sloth.
That's my spirit animal.
This is a sloth.
Yeah, I'm just going to chill here in this tree for the next 16 years and move at a hyper slow pace.
Anyway. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope you're following along with all our episodes. If you've missed any previous episodes, please visit us at our blog. It's very late. Back of the blog.
Back of the blog.
Backofthebase.blogspot.com.
Okay, we're gonna get these episodes up on regular, one way or another.
Yeah, we're looking for sponsors. Please look in the show notes and the description wherever you're seeing this podcast for details. And we're looking for sponsorship opportunities. Please contact us at backofthebase@gmail.com with any question, comments, or to help us sponsor this fantastic podcast, which you know and love.
I'm really down.
You can also find us on our YouTube page. Just search for Back of the Base. All our episodes are posted to YouTube at the same time that they're posted on the blog. You can find Jude and myself on Facebook, Yehuda Rabinowitz and Yosef Siegel. I am on Twitter as well, at Kumzitzguy, KUMZITZGUY. Anything else?
Stay classy, my friends.
That's it. All right, thank you, Prophets, for listening in. We're still waiting to hear from you guys. And thank you again for listening to this podcast.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do. But if you do it,
let me know.
take a picture. Yeah,
Take a picture.
send it to me.
Send it to both of us. I want to see it too.
And pass it on to
Okay, what else do we have to talk about? All right, back to the base.
Whoever does listen to this, thank you.
Yes,
I really appreciate it.
We do very much. And we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Hit us up somewhere. Just be like, yo, I liked it.
We hope you had a great purim.
Yeah. If there was an American football, Canada plays football. But
but they're all American players.
Right, they're American.
They're just people who fail, yeah. I mean, other countries are starting to send players over to college and stuff like that, but it's not even... Yeah, you'll get players from Europe and different places. But they're not even...
They would be good, like, O-line, D-lines.
There was a guy who was drafted by the Vikings a few years ago. He was a receiver. The Ravens have an English player right now. He's a tackle. Backup tackle.
I've never understood why the tackle plays on the offense.
You never understood the names of the positions?
No, I understand a lot of them. Actually, I don't understand quarterback.
Oh, so here's the thing. Here's the position which doesn't make sense. So someone actually guessed this once, and they were right. Like a friend I was with guessed this, and it turns out they were right. Yeah. In the traditional football offense, there's 3 people behind the line of scrimmage.
Right, a fullback, running back.
2 backs and 3 players.
Right.
So the one who's the quarterback is usually right behind the ball. So he's called a quarterback because he's only a quarterback. Then the next 2 players, are technically the halfback and then the fullback. Now, sometime between 1985 and 2000, the fullback and the halfback switched places. And now the halfback is the deep man and the fullback is the upback.
Why would you put the fullback behind
Why did they change the
halfback?
names? Because it's halfback and then fullback.
No, but why would you put your fullback behind your halfback? Your fullback is a blocker.
No, so that's what I'm saying. It changed because it used to be the quarterback, and then the person who was next behind him was called the halfback.
And the halfback was more of a blocker than the fullback.
Yeah,
they didn't change positions; they just changed the names.
Yeah, exactly. Somehow the halfback position became the fullback position, and the fullback position became the halfback position. Where nowadays you'll call the person who's the deepest, he's the halfback, and there's no reason.
So technically, you could call a quarterback a first back, and you'd be correct.
I guess so. See, quarterback is a position on the field. It's not the title of your, thing. Now it's
but a
changed.
tackle
Obviously,
plays offense. Right?
Yes.
There's the center.
I think because
2 tackles.
Right, and 2 guards.
So
I think because
I understand. Tackles. I
center makes total sense.
Yes.
So I think because that thing is called the tackle box. The space between the offensive line is called the tackle box, and that's why you have to be out of that box in order to throw a ball away. And so I think that's why they're the tackles. They're the borders of the tackle box. I think that makes sense.
Great. This is getting weird. Listen, okay, hold on. Can you edit that out?
Sure, no problem.
People are gonna think it's getting
That's
sexual.
the first time I think you told me to edit something out.
Actually, leave it in. It goes against my...
It might go at the end.